today you don't need an MTV producer to call you and put you on a show. Today, you literally, everyone has a stage these days, right? If you choose to use it or not. So I think that it's definitely such a good thing to keep in mind, where everything that you do today, even if you're not planning to become famous or become a social media influencer, even when you apply to certain jobs, like everything that you put out there, the way you behave, the things that you post, pictures, now it's all like visible. I mean, privacy is very, I mean, does it exist? I don't know. I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
I think it does. I think
You
it
think
does.
it
Like,
does?
I'm sure there are moments with you and your husband and your family that you choose not to post.
Oh, 100%.
The thing is that with social media, we're not filming every single second of our lives, or at least
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not one
Mm-hmm.
of those influencers. It doesn't really come that natural to me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, social media has always been like a muscle that I've had to constantly work out and flex, because I don't know whether it's because I'm 35 and past the phase, like I didn't grow up with social media, or if it's just one of those things that I'm just not, it's not natural to me. But I think that, yes, you have to just, I think it's important to maintain some amount of privacy. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need everybody's opinions all up in your most intimate moments. But I think it's about finding that fine line about sharing just the right amount, so that your followers can feel close to you and do like honor your opinions and do want to hear more, because you have to show just that sweet spot of intimacy, which is
Mm-hmm.
hard. Sometimes have like a love-hate relationship with social media for that exact reason, right? It's like
Yeah.
I love it because I feel like I've been able to grow this community. So yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot
Mm-hmm.
between keeping some things very close to you and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that really, if other people are going to give their opinions, is that going to be beneficial for you? Are you going to weigh them heavily? Do you even know these people? Like, you really have to be careful about everything that you put out there, because people are very quick to judge.
Yeah.
And if you're impressionable, then it's going to affect you, you know?
How did you learn, like, what are your boundaries when you say, okay, these are things just for me and my family, and this is for the rest of the world? Like, how did you have some incidents where you're like, okay, I shared too much, that
Um,
taught you a lesson?
I really, what's interesting is that the most intimate things I share, I feel like are always for me the most beneficial. They're like the biggest release, the most cathartic, the things that I think people really, really want to hear, because people want to hear the most intimate details. But I think when it comes to like my husband and my relationship, we get into the nitty gritty sometimes, but we don't, the ins and outs of our relationship are not, we don't really completely publicize that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, certain things with Sunny, I'm he's not like plastered all over my social media. I'm not showing what he's doing every second of the day. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
need that in my life. But for the most part, I feel like, I don't know, it's such double-edged sword. The more that I share, the closer I feel to people, and the better almost I feel about myself, because then I don't feel crazy. I don't
Yeah.
feel like alone.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, it's all about trial and error, and it's about trying, if you feel like being vulnerable and you feel like sharing something, to try it. And then if you're getting comments back, and even if the majority of good, but there's like some bad ones that really stick with you and they really make you feel bad, like, then maybe scale back a little bit, because I just don't think it's worth it to put all this stuff out there to then feel insecure about yourself. Like,
100%.
I also think it's important to continually remember that people don't really know you. Like, I don't know, like, people, I don't want to say people don't really know me, but they don't know like really the core of my being. They're not living in this house, like witnessing everything that's going on in order to make a well-rounded opinion about
Mhm.
who I am or who my family is. So when there are negative comments, I really do try to like let them go in one ear and out the other, because these people, they don't really know me. But for the most part, I think social media has been really kind to me, and I think that they're, you know, more often, like, it's a really supportive, amazing community, and that's why I keep on doing it.
Hmm. I have kind of a rule of thumb. I feel like when I started with social media, it definitely played, a role with just mirroring a lot of my insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've realized what works for me is that there's certain subjects that I won't share until I figured out exactly where I stand on that.
That's smart.
Because it's so easy to, like we mentioned, that to be influenced by all these
Yeah.
opinions and all these things. And when you know where you stand and you share it from a place of like, this is what I think, and
Yeah,
you share it with the world, you get that intimacy where people can relate,
that's
but you
true.
also know exactly, you close that kind of chapter for yourself, and there's no back and forth. Because I found that when I shared things that I was still kind of iffy about, it took me on a whole other ride, that was just not good for me.
Yeah, I think I mean, I think that makes so much sense. And I think that maybe I do that too. I just didn't really know that I was doing that. Like,
Mhm.
Timmy and I will sometimes, like, we do a series on our podcast. We'll rehash out fights that we've already had and
Yes.
gotten over. And I think it's important, like, it's important for us to have, have those fights intimately, like, not be like, revealing them all over social. But then once we've calmed down and we have some space from it, and we feel like
Mhm.
maybe we have something to share and maybe we can help some people who are going through similar things, then we'll record a podcast about it. But I think that is true. Like, I think that you have to figure out and work through your insecurities and your issues first before you just post them all over social media. Because if you're not at peace with those things within yourself, then everybody's
Mhm.
opinions of them are going to affect you so much more.
Can you guys share with us some tips on how to improve your confidence in order to be out there on social media as a content creator?
Yeah, so I think what you kind of like what you were just saying, is that it's important to really know who you are and know what your mission is and your goal is. I think nowadays this industry is so saturated, and
Mhm.
there's millions of fashion bloggers and beauty bloggers, and that's not to say that you shouldn't start that too, but I think it's really important to have your own angle on something. Like, how is
Mhm.
this different? How are you making this unique? And then I think once you find that, you will be more confident in yourself and you won't have to second guess the content that you're posting. But I do think it's important to I think it's important to really, like, first know what you want to get out of your social presence, and like know what is the messaging that you want to portray to your followers. For me, it's all about like inclusion and making people, especially moms, like not feel so alone in some of the dark thoughts that they have. And I think that as long as I continually come back to that, then I feel
Mhm.
confident in my role as an influencer.
Does Whitney feels pressure to keep her clean image?
Sometimes for sure. Sometimes for sure. I mean, I I am, generally speaking, like a pretty clean person, like I
Mhm.
don't do it's I just am, so it's kind of in my nature. But like, if I'm, we started joking about, because like sometimes I'll take a weed gummy and like
Mhm.
have a little bit of fun with Timmy. And so we started talking about that. And at first I was really nervous to do it because I'm like, oh my God, everyone's going to judge me. And then I'm like, you know what? It's legal here in California. I feel like I'm being a responsible adult. Like, I'm only doing it when I know that I don't have any other responsibilities. And like,
Mhm.
I need to, coming back to what we were talking about before, be true to myself. So yes, I do sometimes feel that pressure, and I wonder if what I'm doing is going to come across bad, but for the most part, I don't feel like I have that much to hide, so it doesn't feel so much pressure.